Good morning. I hope everything's going great in your life today, and it's just the beginning of a great week for you. This is a special week in a lot of ways. This coming Sunday is Mother's Day. And I want to ask you, when you think about Mother's Day or just think about mothers, what are some things that rush through your mind? What are the pictures that you have? Most of us very quickly run back to a visual, probably of ourselves and our mother when we were small, or maybe at some point in life. There are all kinds of things that come to mind when we think about our mother. I want to think with you for just a second about one of the great illustrations of care and concern for one's mother was demonstrated by Jesus himself. You remember when God spoke to Mary to tell her that she was chosen to be the one that would give birth to the very Son of God. It would be a special thing. She wondered, how in the world can it be? I've never even had sex with a man. I've never known a man in that way. And the Spirit answered her by saying, the Holy Spirit will come on you. And you'll give birth to a son, and you'll call his name Jesus, and he will save his people. He's going to be the one that changes the world. And so it's going to be a special thing. I've often wondered at what age Mary may have been at the time. Many have estimated she was around 14 or 15 at the time that God spoke to her and said that she was going to give birth to a son. And think about through the years when she was bringing up Jesus, and over to talk about how that she pondered these things in her heart. And she would have Jesus, but then she's going to have several more children as well. We know of at least 4 sons, and we don't know how many daughters, but besides Jesus. So it was a rather large family. And it was a working family, probably in what we would consider to be in some kind of poverty. Jesus and Joseph worked as carpenters, and probably the other sons did as well, as they were trained in that care. And in time, it seems that Joseph died, and it was all left on Mary, and Jesus stays there with the family. And I suspect helping to bring up the others until he was 30 years of age when he began his ministry. But it was right at the end, when Jesus was dying on the cross, that something amazing happened. There'd been times when even Mary seemed to worry about him, that she began to think maybe he had lost his mind, and went at one time with some of the brothers to try to get him because of what he was going through and all they were hearing about him. But at the end, Mary is there at the cross, and Jesus looked down from that cross to see his mother. And can you imagine hanging on that cross where you've been stripped of your clothing, and you've been beaten in such a way that you might be hardly recognizable, but Mary's there. And Jesus looked down to her and said, "Woman, behold your son." As he looked over to John, the disciple, and "Son, behold your mother." And the text says that from that day on, Mary went to live in the home of John the Apostle, and he took care of her, I suppose, until the day of her death. Mary was the mother of Jesus, and that was amazing. But Jesus was concerned about the care of that mother long beyond the time that he would face death and that would ultimately ascend back to the Father, but he was still concerned about the care of his mother. Now, it is amazing to me, realizing that he had all these physical brothers and sisters, that he didn't charge them with that job, but said to the disciple John, you take care of my mother. And then think about this fact. When Paul would write about mothers and parents in general, he would say, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother. For that's the first commandment, he says, with promise that you may live long upon the earth. Now, when God gave that command to the children of Israel, it was about them living long in the land of Canaan, the promised land. And he said, your being able to live long in that land is largely around how you obey your parents and you honor your parents. If you honor your mother and your dad, then the reality is you'll have a long life in this land. And then Paul takes that and transitioned it just to long life. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. This is right. Honor your father and your mother. That's the first command with a promise that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Honoring mother and dad had something to do with life itself and with the continuing of life and how things went with us in this world. Isn't that amazing? And then I think about Paul's writing in 1 Timothy 5 about the care of those that were older, and he would say, if a man doesn't provide for his own, especially those of his own household, he's denied the faith and become worse than an unbeliever. And he'll talk about how that even the church ought to care for those widows, those mothers in Israel that have gotten on past the age of 60 and don't have anyone to help them. They're widows indeed. And he said, now if you have widows in the family, you have those mothers that have been left alone, but you have your family with them, you take care of that so that the church can take care of those that don't have any family to care for them. But I find it amazing that God was so concerned. Jesus demonstrated, then God had Paul to write about that care and that honor and the concern for that mother. Listen, how do you honor your mother? Mother's Day's coming. What are you going to do to demonstrate honor and respect to that mother? Now, with a whole lot of us, our mothers have long gone on to glory. And our honoring them can't be something that we go back and see them. I wish in all kind of ways that I could be able to do that. But it's honoring a memory of a godly mother that made a difference, that changed lives, that made all kinds of demonstrations of love and care and compassion. Be sure, if your mother is still alive, show her honor and respect. Not just on Mother's Day, but every day. And then if your mother's gone, remember her with honor and respect and talk in a powerful way about the memory of a great mom. May God bless you on Mother's Day.